Picture this, you're exploring the bustling markets of Istanbul. Feeling confident and friendly, you give the shop owner an enthusiastic thumbs up after seeing his beautiful carpets, and suddenly, his face changes. The warm smile disappears, replaced by a look of shock and anger. What just happened? Ever given someone a thumbs up or flashed a peace sign in a selfie? In your home country, these gestures might seem completely innocent, friendly, even positive, but in other parts of the world, they can be rude, offensive, or even dangerous. In today's video, we're breaking down 5 common gestures that mean something completely different overseas. And trust me, some of these will absolutely shock you. We'll share real traveler stories that'll make you cringe and give you practical 2025 travel tips so you don't accidentally insult someone or get yourself into serious trouble while exploring the world. Because here's the thing, communication is 55% body language, and your hands are speaking a language you might not even know you're fluent in. Let's start with what might be the most shocking one, the innocent thumbs up. In the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and much of Europe, this gesture is about as positive as it gets. Good job, well done, everything's okay. It's the physical equivalent of a 5-star review. But hold on. In Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and parts of West Africa and the Middle East, giving someone a thumbs up is essentially the same as flipping them off. It's a deeply offensive insult that can get you into serious trouble. The history behind this is fascinating. Some trace it back to ancient Roman gladiator battles, but the meaning evolved differently across cultures over centuries. In parts of the Middle East, the gesture became associated with a crude sexual reference, similar to how we view the middle finger. Here's a real story. An American backpacker named Jake was in Tehran, Iran, trying to communicate with a carpet seller who didn't speak English. When he saw a beautiful Persian rug, Jake enthusiastically gave the seller a big thumbs up, thinking he was showing appreciation. The seller immediately became hostile. Other customers started staring, and Jake had no idea why. It wasn't until his tour guide quickly intervened that he realized he'd just made a major cultural mistake. 2025 Traveler Tip: in the Middle East, South Asia, and parts of Africa, completely avoid the thumbs up gesture. Instead, use an open palm, a gentle nod, or simply say good in the local language. Your smartphone translator app will be your best friend here. Now let's talk about the OK sign. You know, the one where you make a circle with your thumb and index finger. In the US, Europe, and many English-speaking countries, it traditionally means okay, perfect, or excellent. Scuba divers use it underwater to signal that everything's fine, but this innocent gesture can get you in hot water around the world. In Brazil, Turkey, and parts of the Middle East, this sign is seen as extremely vulgar, equivalent to calling someone a bodily orifice. It's basically giving someone an obscene insult. In France, Belgium, and Tunisia, the gesture means zero or worthless. Imagine trying to compliment someone's cooking and accidentally telling them their meal is garbage. And here's where it gets complicated in our modern world. In recent years, this gesture has been co-opted by certain political groups in some countries, adding another layer of potential misunderstanding. Let me share another traveler story. Sarah, a travel blogger from California, was in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in 2024. She was at a restaurant and loved her meal so much that she caught the chef's attention and gave him the OK sign to show her approval. The chef's face went red with anger, and other diners started looking uncomfortable. Sarah had no idea she'd just made an incredibly rude gesture until a bilingual customer quietly explained what had happened. 2025 Traveler Tip: in Latin America, the Middle East, and parts of Europe, keep your hands open when signaling agreement. An open palm or verbal confirmation in the local language is much safer. When in doubt, observe what locals do. Mimicking their gestures is usually your safest bet. The peace sign: 2 fingers up in a V shape. It's everywhere in photos, especially in countries like Japan and South Korea, where it's incredibly popular in selfies. Palm facing outward generally means peace, victory, or just a casual, friendly gesture in the US, Canada, and most of Asia. But here's the catch, and this one trips up a lot of travelers. If your palm is facing inward, meaning the back of your hand is facing away from you, in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and South Africa, you've just made an extremely offensive gesture. It's basically the equivalent of giving someone the middle finger times 2. The historical origins are actually pretty interesting. The legend dates back to medieval England and the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. English longbow archers would supposedly taunt their enemies by showing these 2 fingers, essentially saying, "We can still shoot you." Whether this story is historically accurate is debated, but the gesture stuck as an insult in British culture. Here's a story that shows how easy it is to get this wrong. Mark, an American student studying in London, was taking selfies with his British friends near Big Ben. He kept making peace signs, but had his palm facing toward himself, the way many Americans naturally do it. His British friends were laughing, and he thought they were just having fun. It wasn't until later that evening that someone explained he'd been essentially flipping off everyone who walked by, including several police officers. 2025 Traveler. Tip: when using the V sign anywhere in the British Commonwealth, always ensure your palm faces outward, away from your body. Show the front of your hand, not the back. When taking photos with locals, watch how they position their hands and copy exactly what they do. Let's talk about a gesture that seems so innocent, but can actually land you in legal trouble in some countries: the "come here" finger curl. You curl your index finger toward yourself to beckon someone over. In the US, it's just a casual way to call someone, maybe get a waiter's attention. But in the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and several other Southeast Asian countries, this gesture is considered extremely rude and demeaning. Why? Because it's traditionally used only for calling animals or treating someone like they're beneath you. Using this gesture toward a person, especially someone older, is seen as incredibly disrespectful. In the Philippines, this gesture is actually so offensive that it can be considered a form of harassment, especially if used toward authority figures or elders. The cultural concept of showing proper respect is deeply important in Filipino culture, and this gesture violates those principles completely. Here's a real incident. In 2023, an Australian tourist named David was in Manila trying to get the attention of an older waiter at a restaurant. He used the finger curl gesture repeatedly when the waiter didn't immediately come over. The waiter became visibly upset. Other diners started staring, and the restaurant manager had to intervene. David was asked to leave the restaurant. Age and hierarchy matter enormously in these cultures. Using any beckoning gesture towards someone older or in a position of authority can be seen as presumptuous and rude. 2025 Traveler. Tip: throughout Southeast Asia, use your whole hand with palm down to gently wave someone over. Better yet, make eye contact and use a slight bow or nod. If you need service at a restaurant, it's often better to walk over to the staff rather than beckoning them. Our final gesture might surprise you because it's become so associated with American pop culture worldwide. The horns, index finger and pinky extended, other fingers down. In the US, it's all about rock and roll, heavy metal music, or general enthusiasm. You'll see it at concerts and sports events, but in Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, and parts of Latin America, including Brazil, this gesture has a completely different and much more serious meaning. It traditionally means your partner is cheating on you, essentially calling someone a cuckold. In these cultures, making this gesture towards someone, especially a man, is basically accusing them of being betrayed by their spouse. Those are literally fighting words in some places. The historical context goes back centuries in Mediterranean cultures. The gesture represents horns, and being horned was a way to describe someone whose partner was unfaithful. It was one of the most shameful things you could accuse someone of. Here's a story that shows how dangerous this misunderstanding can be. In 2024, an American college student named Tyler was at a fall match in Naples, Italy. His team scored, and in his excitement, he made the horns gesture toward the crowd, thinking he was just showing enthusiasm. Several Italian men in the crowd became extremely agitated, thinking he was making accusations about their wives. The situation escalated quickly. Security had to intervene. What makes this particularly tricky is that younger generations might understand the American meaning, but older generations or people in more traditional areas still interpret it the traditional way. You never know which interpretation someone will use. 2025 traveler tip: only use the horns gesture at obvious rock concerts or when you're absolutely certain everyone around you understands the American meaning. When celebrating in Mediterranean countries, stick to clapping, cheering, or raising your fist in the air. Before we wrap up, here are some quick universal tips for safe gesturing while traveling. When in doubt, keep your hands visible but still. Observe before you gesture. Watch how locals interact with each other and copy their body language. Pointing with your index finger is rude in many Asian and African cultures. Use an open hand or nod in a direction instead. Big gesture, thumb between index and middle finger, and remember, even nodding yes and no can mean different things in some countries. In parts of Bulgaria, nodding up and down can mean no, while shaking side to side means yes. Your safest bet: smile genuinely, use open palms, and when in doubt, ask your guide, hotel staff, or a friendly local about appropriate gestures. Most people appreciate when visitors make an effort to understand their culture. So there you have it, 5 simple gestures that could completely change how people see you overseas. The world is more connected than ever. The cultural differences haven't disappeared. If anything, understanding these nuances becomes more important as we interact with more diverse communities. A smile might be universal, but your hands can speak a language you didn't even know you were fluent in. Which one of these surprised you the most? Have you ever had a travel moment where a gesture got lost in translation? Drop your stories in the comments. Some of the best travel wisdom comes from real cultural sensitivity. Isn't about walking on eggshells or being afraid to interact with people. It's about showing respect, being willing to learn, and understanding that communication styles are just one of many beautiful ways humans connect with each other. When in doubt, observe the locals and don't be afraid to ask questions. Most people around the world appreciate when visitors make an effort to understand their culture, even if you don't get it perfect the first time. Safe travels, and may all your gestures be culturally appropriate ones.